Hello and welcome everybody back once again to the PXN Pentathlon here on the Simracing.GP platform. I'm Mike Noss. Joined alongside me tonight is this time a slightly less British Jackson Lambros. Jackson, how are we doing on this lovely evening, afternoon, morning, wherever these fine folks are in this world?
It's the same time for you, Mike, just getting to noon here on the west coast of the US, but worldwide, we are getting set here for round number 3 of the pentathlon. We started on Formula 4 power at the Nürburgring, moved on to a little bit more power with the M2 Cup at Alton Park. It's about to be some big time power at one of the biggest tracks we're going to visit here in these 5 rounds.
Yes, indeed. We get to head on over for a little bit of a spa day, folks, as we go to the namesake place where that term got dubbed, of course. We had to spa Francorchamps in the Ferrari 499. A little bit of a step up, as Jackson was saying here, in terms of horsepower, in terms of downforce. We had previously in round 1 over on Assetto Corsa. Remember, folks, this is... In fact, you know what? Why don't we cut to it real quick? Why don't we explain the format briefly before we explain, I guess, the entirety of this, just to make it make a little bit more sense to you folks at home. The format is going to be a pentathlon, and why do we call it that? Well, this is why. We have 5 different races on 4 different simulators, starting off Formula 4 on Assetto Corsa, that was in the RSS models as well, on the Nürburgring GP, not the Nords. We had the BMW M2s, that was going to be the touring car race over on iRacing, and if anyone remembers back to that, it was just last week, folks. How could you forget? We saw Andrea Miato take victory over Alfie Bevins with Sai Sudakar down in 3rd. Round 1 for the for Assetto Corsa was going to be taken by Sky Stakans, Lopez, and Livings. That was your top 3 there. Senatore down in 4th and Prithvi in 5th. But when it comes to the standings, we do have, of course, throughout this championship, how do we get to those standings? You might ask. It's not necessarily a simple race win. No, you get a point for each clean lap that you participate in practice or qualifying, as well as in the race. On top of that, you can get bonus points if you are going to be putting the hashtags for the PXN Pentathlon, as well as hashtag Simracing.GP in the names as well, where you can find a few more points there. Points for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Beyond that, it is going to be down just to how many laps you complete, as well as the streaming, and of course that 1.5 multiplier that is going to be crucial for these drivers to get if they want to have the max haul of points at the end of the day. That's going to be for taking part in every single round, which today, Jackson, unfortunately, we're missing a couple very key names out there, and I'm hoping we pick them up. But before we get into that, though, why don't we talk a little bit more about these cars and the tracks? And actually, before that, this is, of course, how it works. So I just kind of explained this here. So as we said, 5 different races across 4 different sims. Prizes will be awarded as well. So what are those prizes, you might ask? Well, I'm glad you did. If you head on over to sim.gp or simracing.gp, you can also find the prizes available there, but it's going to be first place winning a VD4 bundle. This is the individual races, by the way, for today in Split 1. A CB1 for 2nd place, and then an HBS, I think a handbrake there for 3rd. Overall prizes, first place going to be taking home a V10 bundle worth nearly $540, as well as 2nd place getting a $400 bundle for the V6, and then the VD4 bundle for 3rd place as well. And any driver that completes all 5 races also will be taking a nice 15% discount home for any VD series products, which we've heard so many good things about in chat as well. Great little time to welcome everybody as well. Welcome to you in chat if you are joining us wherever you find world. Have you ever tried out any of the PXN products? I know we had some in terms of the most recent VD10 bundle. I've heard some really good things about that. That's going to be available over on PXN's website. You can head to e-pxn.com for more information on that. And as we get into it here, folks, we have, of course, the track on offer, Spa-Francorchamps, a circuit that needs really no introduction, Jackson. But I tell you what, why don't you introduce it here for us tonight?
It's really hard to say something that hasn't already been praised. Here, Mike, we talk about one of the great jewel boxes of this sport of road racing. You look at one of the most challenging corners, Eau Rouge and Raidillon. Big time commitment, especially in these GTP cars or hypercars, however you like to call it. It's going to be all faith in downforce and mechanical grip as we make this bold and brave run through turns 3, 4, and 5. Crucial for getting things set up at Camel Straight, one of your main opportunities to get things done and potentially make a move heading into Lacombe's. A great mix of high speed, high commitment corners, some low speed technical stuff, plenty of elevation change, And at 7 kilometers long and just about 4.3 miles long, it is easily the longest of the 5 tracks we're going to visit here for the pentathlon.
Yeah, it is. And it's going to be one of those ones as well that the drivers, they know. We had round 1, which we took part on the Nürburgring GP. Now, that's a track that everybody knows very, very well. But round 2, I think, is going to be one of those that I think a lot of drivers didn't really have the most expectations for. It was Oran Park in the BMW M2s, a track that you don't really see that often. Now, up next, for anyone curious, September 11th, coming up on ACC, that's going to be the GT3s at Brands Hatch. So we'll be seeing that next week. But the Ferrari 499s at Spa, this is a bit of bread and butter, Jackson. This is a car combo that a lot of drivers have gotten used to, especially with the fact that Le Mans Ultimate being a simulator out for nearly a year at this point. The drivers, they've had time to practice, and this being one of the most popular hypercars out there, I'm expecting some great things tonight.
But again, it's all about adaptation here for the pentathlon. We do a huge variety of different cars, and this is a huge step up. We're talking about a Ferrari 499P hypercar making half of the weight of that M2 CS these guys hopped out of last week, and making almost double the horsepower. This V6 making over 670 brake horsepower, 260 just from the twin motors at the front. Also, another huge part that we need to mention, and what makes this group of cars stand out from everything else that we're driving, that integrated hybrid system, another part that you need to manage. You've got over 260 extra horsepower on tap. So how you manage that, where you learn to save and deploy that at a place like this where you only have a handful of overtaking opportunities, that is going to be paramount. Let's jump on board here though and show you around the Belgian Temple of Speed. On board here with your championship points leader, Andrea Miato. Through the bus stop chicane, exit here is paramount. If you're bold and brave, you can potentially get a move into La Source. Waiting after the Rolex bridge, using that braking reference on our left. We'll do it just at the Total Energies marker, getting as close to that inside wall street circuit style corner as we work our way down to the bravest run in all of motorsports, hugging that wall on the right side, sucking as much downforce as possible. Here we go, up Eau Rouge and Radion in downforce we trust. Big cut to the inside of turn number 5, and we wobble the car out, get it straightened up, and put our heads down as we work our way down the Camel Straight. Turn 6, the right-handed kink, and it'll be a prime overtaking opportunity heading into 7, 8, and 9. Look how you can see how much confidence Andrea has right now in this car, able to monster truck over the curbs and not wiggle at all. Lot of grip being demanded from the 2 Pirelli tires out in front as we navigate our way around Brussels, off camber and downhill. We continue to drop as we work our way through turn 11 and in the long right-handed run to Pouan.
Going now, the high-speed, high-commitment left-hander here. You can hear Fernando Alonso often talk about just how truly difficult this corner is. You never take it the same way twice. Now, getting into the piff-paffs, the fangnas, and the back part of the track where you sort of get to settle in and have a bit of leisure driving, but you're still going to have drivers rubbing a hole in their bumper as you go on through the right-hander here of the Fangnas and get yourself down towards the Stavalos and campus onto the curb of Paul Fries. Now, this is where overtaking opportunities are going to open back up. Not just yet, of course. It's a very, very long run as you go down towards Blanchimont and into the bus stop chicane, which was used as a public bus stop until the year 2000, by the way. That's going to be your best overtaking chance here for the rest of the track, and your last one as well. Hard onto the brakes as you're going at nearly top speed in these Ferrari 499s. Hit the curb on the right, hit the curb on the left, accelerate to the line a little bit loose on the back end there for Miato. It's a 2:01.9 for the previous lap. As we get to the line this time, it's going to be a 2 minutes 0.9, an improvement and pole position and 3 purple sectors.
Saw a big wiggle there on exit from Andrea. That's easily the slowest part on the racetrack. And with no driving aids, you've got to be so careful tiptoeing back on power. And that's what I talked about. Turn 1 being a potential prime overtaking spot. You've got a plethora here, but it's all about how brave and how knowledgeable you are about your car's limits, Mike.
It absolutely is. Just want to take another second here before we get back. Welcome everyone in chat. I see we have LF Sander joining us from Brazil. Obrigado to anyone joining us from down in South America. Of course, we love absolutely each and every one of you. Brazil being one of my favorite places outside of America. So shout out to you. And hopefully, let us know who you're cheering on here tonight. Are there other Brazilian drivers out there? Is it going to be Oros? I'm assuming it's Oros because that's a pretty Portuguese name if I had to guess. Now, obviously, I'm just guessing. Either way, neither here nor there. Miato, pole position. What does Adam Ely have? One of the league admins. It's not going to be a 209.1. That is going to be 4.3 seconds off of pole for Adam.
To give you some real-life reference here, we go to this May's 6 hours of Spa. It was this very car that took victory, but more notably for the time being, took pole position, a 159.617, and that was Ferrari factory driver Antonio Fuoco behind the wheel. Track conditions are not 50-50, a little bit hotter, and these guys are doing a little bit more work right now trying to lay this rubber into the track. In the next 8 minutes or so, we might be starting to see cars break below that 2-minute point. Little bit wide there for Bine, though. He's testing it. He wants to go sub 2.
He's going to be absolutely wringing the neck of this car right now and just trying to avoid those back markers at any cost, or back markers, front markers, qualifiers, whatever you want to call them. Right now, Stephen Bain absolutely has zero care in the world for them. He wants to set the fastest lap in Miato. Currently holding that. He's improved since we last checked in with a 200.6, so really stretching the bar out just that much further. Senatore, not far off either, but what can Stephen Bain do? From 14th position, he's got a long ways to the top if you want to rock and roll, Steve. What do we have here as we come across the line? We're going to have an improvement. Well, I'm assuming we're going to have an improvement. This is going to be the first valid lap for Bain. It's not valid.
I want to rewind to a point we made earlier because we've got a phenomenal representation of not just cars and tracks here, but nationalities being represented. You go back to round 1, Robert Skaskalis, the Latvian, winning alongside Emmanuel Lopez in second, and then you've got Max L in third. You go over to last weekend. Ooh, big jump there from Manny Lopez as he tries to find pace there in at that white 83, or excuse me, white and yellow 83. But you look back to last week, an Italian, a Brit, and an Indian. 5 different nationalities so far being represented on the podium here in the pentathlon. Are we going to see a new nationality, a new name? Centauri and Sabu, we have not seen too much from them so far. This championship could be a good time to see them charge forward and work their way to the point.
It really is interesting, you know, when you bring it up, because we mentioned Sky Stakans, who took victory in Assetto Corsa by a significant margin over Lopez. So talking about 2 very heavy-hitting names right there. Currently, they're nowhere to be found. Down in 10th position right now. Lopez in 6th, having a little bit better of a day. This is what I love about the PXN Pentathlon and the format that we have on offer here. With the different simulators, different drivers have different strengths. We're also in different machines as well. This being a significantly more heavy in downforce type of driving. Clearly, I'm wondering, if I was to ask Sky Stakans, do you prefer the downforce cars or do you prefer the mechanical grip? And judging by what I'm seeing here, it seems like Sky Stakans might be a mechanical expert, but the downforce, he's struggling to keep it planted on the track right now.
But again, he's got something that's a little bit more of a medium as we move on to the GT3s at Brands Hatch next week. Hard to call that a true medium with how much those cars have evolved. Yes, they've gotten more aerodynamic grip, but it's nowhere near GTP or open wheeler levels. And for a guy that we saw really dominate in the CS cars, he's going to end with some soul food as we head to the Renault Clio Cup. Manny Lopez to the line at 2 even .632. That's good enough for P5. Back over to Mark Oros, not the sector 1 he wanted, but he turned the wick up in the middle as he worked his way back down the hill. What's it going to be here from P6? Looking to work his way up. Oh, he's off track limits, Mike. He's had to back out at the line.
Yeah, you hate to see it. This is Sky Stakans, though, and this is no longer Sky Stakans. This is Kush, currently running in 11th right now, as he's going to be trying to find any little tent that he can. So we still have 5 minutes left in qualifying, so we're seeing drivers come back into pit lane, presumably for a new set of boots, a little bit of fuel as well, and through that, of course, trying just to get any little margin that you can here. What does Yakush have as we come to the line? A 201 is the time to beat, but we're well past that now. Into the 203 is the 203.39 to beat there. Yakush, no improvement, still sitting in 11th.
Ooh, big send there for Sandro Salvo, who might be having some connection issues on his end as he works his way back down the hill. And Look at what makes this car so difficult. Weight distribution and being able to dance on the pedals. Yes, you've got a couple of quick flicks to the left and right as we work our way through a prime example of that. Working our way out of Puan and through 13, 14, and 15, this high speed back and forth complex. You've got a lot of weight with those electric motors on the front axle. Yes, that helps you pull the car around the corner, but you look at some of these long sweeping corners. Stavolo, a great example. You are dancing on the pedals, managing the brake and throttle, trying to keep that platform as even as possible. And LMU has done such a great job modeling these physics. We see the car bump and undulate with each corner with dirty air. And when you put, 18 cars next to one another, that's only going to get more important once we get here to race time.
It absolutely is. And I do want to clarify something for anyone curious that's maybe newer to the hypercar scene. We're talking about something called virtual energy, and you're going to hear us use that term a lot. These cars, they have a virtual energy, and it's not quite like you would expect if you're used to the Formula One style racing. In Formula One, you have a button that you push and it gives you more horsepower to go quicker whenever you want. That's not quite how these cars work. They have a different type of KERS system with an energy in terms of all that's similar in terms of the way that it's harvested, but the way that it's deployed is very different. Think of it, I guess, more of a secondary fuel tank than it is a boost. So you're going to be managing back and forth, so you can change the percentages. I can use more fuel or I can use more energy. And at the end of the day, when I come back into pit lane, I want my energy to be as low as possible. I want my fuel to be as low as possible. So it's just a different way of managing out on track in terms of the length. Now, we only have a 45-minute race out here tonight, Jackson. I don't think we're going to need to worry about the virtual energy too much, but it is something to keep in mind for folks at home.
No, absolutely. And what we see in endurance racing so much with the integration of these hybrid systems is, using that to pick up a little bit of the slack that the ICE, the internal combustion engine, is using. But again, 45-minute race, not going to be using it too much for saving fuel. We might see some guys under fuel just a little bit here and tucking in the draft to maybe save a little bit of weight. I don't think we're going to see any guys going too reserved here. If you're an IndyCar fan or a Formula One fan, you can absolutely imagine these guys doubling it up basically as a push to pass button. But that main difference being, push to pass, I think for IndyCar would be the best comparison, where you have a limited number of time that you can use it. It's a lot more closely monitored instead of the Formula One system, where it's just if the battery's full, you can use the energy.
Yeah, and then there's a certain deployment per lap. But yeah, exactly. It is a little bit different. It's a confusing one, but basically what it allows to do is it balances the manufacturers. So the reason that they implemented initially, I think it was especially for GTPs, is the reason they mainly introduced it. I could be wrong on that, don't quote me. But it's just because different manufacturers, I think it was Cough Cadillac, that was really good in fuel and basically didn't even need to refuel during certain races. So they had to, figure out a way to not have that happen and make them pit regardless. So that's kind of the reason, but again, it's a bit more nuanced than that. It's a bit more complicated. I highly recommend looking into it. Let us know, chat, if you have any insights and kind of better ways that we can describe it as well. I'd love to hear from you. And as well, folks at chat, if you guys have driven on LMU before, what's your favorite car? What do you like to drive out here? And if so, we can talk about this as well. What's your favorite sim? We got a pentathlon on offer here tonight with multiple sims. So what do you prefer? Is LMU better than iRacing? Is iRacing better than others? Again, this is all up in the air, and every sim has different strengths and different weaknesses, but let us know. We want to hear your opinions out there.
45 seconds to go here in round 3 qualifying. Big wiggle there from Miato on exit. He was almost even in that middle sector. He might have been off pace. He's purple in all 3, but he's a 10th back. And we'll have to have one more opportunity here to try and give himself just a little bit of a cushion right now. Senator just behind right now by 1.68, the gap between your front row. Cypravithi from P5, he's way back, 1.5 off pace. With a monster lap, though, he could be easily able to crawl his way into the second or even first row. It is dead even almost between Miato and Centaura. With those two, big wiggle from Prizzy.
Yeah, Prithvi, they're not able to contend, I think, on this lap, unfortunately. Just giving it a little bit too much in Sector 1, and then the cards, they end up come tumbling down. Miato and Senatore, like you're saying, they're in a league of their own right now. Basically, a blink of an eye off the times of each other's, but nearly a second faster than third position. So there still is a window for Prithvi to fall into here. He's currently about 1 minute forward through Blanchimont, or through Pouan, so we'll keep an eye on that, as that's a time that I'm just noting, and I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind. But Miato, I think, is going to be fairly untouchable right now, barring Senatore. I see the top two right now kind of being the top two for the foreseeable future, but as we know, Jackson, anything can happen in racing, and once we get into the actual race session, the gloves can come off. And especially, we've seen throughout these races, the leaders, while the format that we have here for the PXN Pentathlon on the Simracing.GP, it typically incentivizes drivers to not race. You want clean laps. You want to actually have that going. But we really haven't seen that. And as a result, we've seen our leaders get almost taking each other out from time to time. Are we going to see a repeat of that? I don't know. All I do know is that Oros has managed to find his way nearly half a second down.
We'll have to see what he can do as Miato continues to try and gain a gap out of the bus stop chicane. Almost dead even in the middle sector. A little bit of time gained and drops down to a 2:0.62. And that'll be all she wrote here for qualifying.
Done and dusted. The nerves are going to be at their highest now. For anyone curious, by the way, I wanted to mention this in the qualifying, but I haven't mentioned it yet. Some fun facts on Spa. Jackson, do you know how long this track is?
Almost exactly 7 kilometers, I believe. It's 4.3 miles.
Now, do you know how many Formula One cars stretched end to end that would be?
God. See, you're so good at these little, like, tidbits of information. We gotta be into quadruple digits, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. What's the number? Because I'm not even, I'm gonna say 1,200.
That's low-key actually insane. It's about 1,273, so I mean, closer to 1,300, but like, I'll give that one to you, honestly. That's a great guess. Yeah, about 1,200, or give it 1,300 Formula One cars lined up bumper to gearbox, or front wing to gearbox. That would span the entirety of Spa-Francorchamps, in case you were curious. What are you going to do with that information? I don't know. Whatever you want. That was a good guess. Either way.
Dude, I'm way too proud of that. I can tell you right now, capacity of about 70,000. Bigger than most college level arenas, but you look at some of the big events this place is hosted. Obviously, the reason we're able to race this at LMU, the 6 hours of Spa, World Endurance Championship, also, or the FIM World Endurance Championship, also doing a bike race here with the 8 hours of Spa. But here's how they will roll off for our 45 minutes. Andrea Miato alongside Vincenzo Scatore. Looking for the back row too. Mark Oros will be alongside Sandor Sabo. As on to row 3, Sai Pravithi, we saw try and dig. He'll have to settle for P5 alongside the Argentinian of Manny Lopez. Row 4, Casper Gassior and Harris Kareem. Gonna have to do a little bit of work here from the middle of the field, rounding out your top 5, Mike. Andres Suriani and Robert Skystalis, your runner-up in the championship for the time being.
Yeah, Stephen Bain down in 11th position with Peter Yakush alongside. Christian Petrov taking home 13th position, lucky number for him, and Adam Ely coming home in 14th. Christian Lorila coming home in 15th position with DC himself, Mr. David Christie, a fellow commentator of ours, down in 16th. Benji Beams, 17th with Pedro Delgado alongside in 18th, and that is going to be your last but certainly not least row. Pedro Delgado's got a lot ahead of him, and that's a driver that we know has the capability of putting in the results. Delgado, last time around, just taking a look, finished in 8th from, I'm not sure where he started, but he did finish in 8th. That much I can confirm.
I'll say this off rip. It's going to be big time eyes on Robert Skystalis, because we've seen him really execute in these first 2 rounds. He's finding himself a little bit further back than he wanted. You can say the same with Manny Lopez, but it will be all eyes on Andrea Miato and Senatore to see what they can do from the front row.
And it's a rolling start here in LMU, folks. We do it on the start-finish straight this time, so we do get to see La Source for any of those next week in ACC. Not quite familiar with that, but here we go. We're racked up and we're stacked and we're ready to go, and the green flag is out, and Andre Miato getting a very good start. Behind him, Senatore trying to tuck to the outside, but he's going to have to settle for second, no doubt. To the inside, though, Sabazo is potentially going to be having a go here on Oros. Down to the outside, though. Oros is going to have to lose out. Lopez now in the background as they fanning out, still 2x2 from sixth position back. Our leaders, Miato there, going to be going between the lines with Senatore. Needs to be very careful with those track limits, Jackson. We're racing, we're green here, and on the way down to Lacombe, this is when things start to shuffle.
First main overtaking opportunity after La Source. Senatore, as you mentioned, Mike, a really big cut there at the top of the hill. We've got one car around further back. It looked like Mark Oros tank slapped into somebody else. I believe that might have been Beams who got collected as a result. We were too wide going back into the Camel Straight. It was Kareem, actually, who got collected and now falls back to P17 trouble as well for Delgado. He's been sent all the way back to the pits. That drops us down to 16 cars running already, or excuse me, 17 cars running already. Back over to Benji Beams, who has resumed at full song here, just over Larila and Kareem. Already starting to see the pack here start to break into little battle groups.
Very interesting. I'm curious what happened to Delgado, if he even hit the start there, because he was in last at the beginning. But either way, we've seen some movers, we've seen some shakers, and we've seen some drivers where they started. Miato remains where he was in the front, Senatore alongside. Sabazo, though, in third position. That was a nice little move, and Lopez gaining some ground as well. Oros kind of caught sleeping at the wheel early on here. He's dropped back down into fifth position. That's going to be a loss of 2 positions so far. 2 gained for Lopez, 1 gained for Gaisor, and so on down the field here. 4 positions lost, though, for Sai Prithvi. We saw that into Lacombe, as we're currently seeing Lopez under threat from behind, as Oros is looking like quite the hungry man. Not able to get the move done, though, just yet, and seeing Gaisor in the background have a bit of a mistake. That's going to be a welcome opening there to Oros, as he's going to continue that fight on forward.
Yeah, I think he saw the move there for Manny Lopez and kind of drove off the brakes of him. He was going late to make that move, and he just decided to go with him. So that's 1 spot lost. That's potentially another spot being lost as well for Peter Yakush. He's got a fellow mustard and ketchup machine just behind, working up out of Eau Rouge. You can see how much these cars wiggle on exit, working over the curbs. It can upset the car because the whole car unloads at the crest of the hill. So managing the wheel, making sure you're keeping the car straight, it's a very, very fast part of the racetrack. And if you're not on it 100%, things can go south very, very quickly. Yakush still holding off Bine, and nobody home right now for Andrea Miato. Already a comfortable 2nd gap over Senatore.
Yeah, he's really walking away with this one. And Senatore, I mean, judging by the qualifying pace, this is sort of predicted. Now, Senatore just needs to keep that 1 second gap for the most part. As long as he's within that 0.8 to 1 second window, he'll be getting a little bit of slipstream down the Camel Straight, which is absolutely crucial. If you end up losing that slipstream, you're going to end up losing your competition at that point. Miato is going to walk away, and he's not going to look back. Right now, that's his goal. He wants to disappear into the Spa sunset and really just allow Senatore and Sabo to go at each other and just let him disappear right now. Talking about that driver that you had mentioned earlier, Robert down in 8th. Oh, goodness. Hold that thought here. We have a little bit of an absolute war going on here with Larila, trying to get by Ben Beams, but really not having much success.
That's a hard place on the racetrack to get it done. The 13, 14, and 15 run into Stavolo. Here's a great opportunity, though, as we work our way out of turn 17 into the bus stop. Look to the inside from Cyper 50. We're almost 3 wide going into the bus stop. It looks to be that's Colonist who's actually arrowheading them as we work our way out. Pravithi with a great opportunity. He had to tuck him back in. Now Yakush looks down low as we head into La Source for the 2nd time. It's 5 minutes into this race, but we're racing like there's 5 minutes to go. Just a little bit further back. Vine trying to make a move. Just a little bit further back. Tried that lunge on the inside of La Source. Had the space, but did not have the pace to get that move done.
No, he got his front nose in there and really just kind of let Yakush know that he was, or excuse me, let Prithvi know that he was there. That's really all it accomplished. He was aware of you, in case you were curious. Now he's very aware. I'm going to be keeping a close eye, not opening any gaps either, as you can see the desperation starting to take play, which is way too early in a race for desperation to hit the fan. We need to be discretion being the better part of valor right now. Prithvi knows that. That's where he's made up his ground. He's still in 10th right now because he's being so passive. Yakush trying to make up positions as well, but Stephen Bain, keep an eye on him because I sense a little bit of over-aggression here in the near future.
E5 for the Spaniard, Mark Oros, a P9 finish last weekend in the M2CS. He's trying to fend off, but there is an absolute doghouse going on further back because Peter Yakush trying to make a move to the inside of Robert Stice-Kalnis. It looked very ambitious there as we had the run into Pujon, but again, as we work back into the compass section, everybody has to go nip and tuck, but there's a bit of anticipation. One car off further back. I think it's Bain who carried a little bit too much speed there into Stavilo. We're side by side further back, and we are getting things out early. Another bit of a bobble there for Yakush as everybody's carrying too much speed. You can see, Mike, just how knife edge these cars are. The minute there's just a little bit of a slide, you need to pick it up immediately because these cars react on the slightest of mistakes.
Yeah, Prithvi was doing his best rallycross impression there. I don't know if he knows, but BMWs, they were last week. That's not quite the line you want to be taking. Oh my goodness, as we're 2x2 into the braking zone, Kareem and Prithvi nearly taking out Bain and Yakush. This is a knife fight in a phone booth if I've ever seen one. We can already see Yakush getting all sorts of aggressive right now as he's trying to look to the inside of his opponent there in the same car. Kareem getting involved side by side down this Chemelster, down Rouge Radi on what could possibly go wrong. Well, right now, Stephen Bain's going to have to yield. Yakush gains the ground, I think. Yes, no, Bain, excuse me, gains the ground. Yakush left back into 10th right now, and I sense the shoe is about to be on the other foot. That's a very poor exit from Stephen Bain, and Yakush is about to be charging like a bat out of hell himself.
Stice-Kalnis going middle of the track to defend. Bain with a flick to the outside. He'll have to work the long way around if he wants to get it done. Now tries the over-under. This is phenomenal defense from Steven, going the middle, trying to make Bain have commitment issues, and absolutely sells it. Goes a little bit wide. This will give an opportunity for Kareem to potentially sail through. We're locking up here as we head into Brussels, still side by side, and that is big losses for Peter Yakush.
Yeah, and he's just really having to count his lucky stars right now that he's even still on track. This is an all-out war right now between these four, and they need to keep it they need to dial it back at this stage if they want to finish this race. There's still 37 minutes left to go. No mandatory pit stops are in the schedule as well, so we predict this to go to the end. The battles as they are, they're going to continue that way. Oros knows that. You can see he is being a little more discreet when it comes to the overtake, and Lopez, we can see as well, taking a look on the left-hand side, this is your virtual energy. So with, I'm not a mathematician. That's a little too much for me right now.
That's close to your push to pass, so that's how much extra juice they have remaining. Mark Oros using a little bit here to try to peek to the inside of Manuel Lopez as we work our way through the bus stop. Suriani just a little bit further back here, pouncing, trying to wait to make a move, because if these two continue to throw haymakers at each other, it's going to give these two cars a little bit further back the prime opportunity to strike. You gotta think that Suriani knows that, as we've got trouble here. I believe this is the entry to the chicane. Yes, it is. And Cypervithi might have been self-induced. I don't see too much damage on that 499. We've got another car very slow on exit too as well, so that maybe was a multi-car incident. It's so hard to tell though off bat.
I don't think those two were near each other on track, so I'm suspecting that it was two separate incidents actually. I think Adam Ely was a little bit further behind throughout the entirety of this, so Prithvi just really getting off to an unlucky start here. It just hasn't been his day, I think is the way to put it. Looking further up though, Mark Oros, it's been his day for the most part. He's gained some really good ground in qualifying and not quite much in the race yet. He's been bottlenecked, he's been stuck, but now he doesn't have Suriani behind him. Well, he does, it's just a little bit of a gap. He's got some breathing room. He can actually start to maybe whittle his way through here, get by Lopez sooner rather than later. The question is, where do you pull the trigger?
The obvious answer would be Blanchimont and the run into the bus stop chicane, but we've seen guys be a little bit more aggressive than I anticipated right here. Turn 16 and Stavelot doing a sneaky pass. And again, seeing some guys, you look at how this 13, 14, 15 complex works. If you run just a little bit wide there, you are spending the entire rest of that combination trying to make it up and losing speed, trying to get back onto the racing line. That's why you're seeing so many guys get dragged back into the mix, because so many people are over driving this early into the race, and that sets up an opportunity right here into the bus stop. A little bit of a peek to the inside. There's contact between himself and Lopez. Lopez has to check up. Oro's going to use the chrome horn. He gets a little bit of the same from Suriani just behind, and in two mistakes, everybody gets dragged right back into this battle.
Now, one thing to keep in mind, folks, how do the points get scored in this championship? They get scored by clean laps. Those are not clean laps. What we just saw, having contact with another driver, that's not going to gain you any points. Remember, it's only the top 3 positions that pay for points. So even if Lopez Oros and Lopez were able to switch positions, it wouldn't matter for Lopez. It wouldn't matter for Oros. There's no points on the line other than the clean laps. So I really would like to see these drivers kind of just going back a little bit here. We're up to about 102%, I suspect. We need to be in the 80s at this stage. No contact required. Just drive, work together, and worry about each other in the later stages of the race. Maybe Miato has a spin. Maybe Senatori has a spin. Just like this man on your screen has himself, Prithvi, trying to get by Ben Beams right now. It's been a bad day for Prithvi. He's managed a new position there, but it's unfortunately only going to be 14th.
I think he's just happy he's got someone to battle with once again, and I think there's a little bit of teamwork potentially at play here. Trying to find who the faster guy is, and with a little bit of cooperation here, maybe letting one guy tow the other. I think that was an overdrive issue there from Ben Beeves going into Brussels, and Pripsy able to snail on through. Stephen Bain back in P9. He is on the hunt right now as he works his way to the bumper of Styskalnis.
So joining us in chat, it looks like we have, I'm going to try to pronounce this one in the best of my abilities, Kiskaya Racing Team. Welcome, welcome. Hope you're having a lovely evening, afternoon, or morning, wherever you are. Let us know who you're cheering on out there. Who do you want to see win, folks? And this goes for everybody in chat joining us on the PXN official YouTube channel. If you guys are enjoying this, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button here on PXN Official. This, of course, being the official race on the Simracing.GP platform. Highly recommend checking that out, folks. Again, all of PXN as well when it comes to their gear. The new PDHM pedals. They also have the VD10 bundles and the VD bundles in general, which are very sought after. Highly recommend checking those out. That'll be over on pxn.com.
It's been an eerie level of consistency for Andreas Suriani to start these first 2 races of the pentathlon. I think the Hungarian, though, is maybe hoping that consistency was a little bit further up in the field. A 6th and a 7th to get us started. He finds himself back in P6 right now. It could be a 7th right now with Gassier just a little bit further behind, also having that yellow banner. But Suriani in the mix right now is driving about the way you would expect, with the right level of reservation, knowing that there's still half an hour on the clock. And now is the time to coexist. Gloves come off with 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, this is a longer track, so we talk about the fact that every single lap that you complete that's clean, you get a point from. Completing a lap here is significantly more difficult than completing a lap at Oran Park. The lap times at Oran were right around a minute 10, give or take. Lap times here, a little bit longer than that. Now, of course, these are not quite the GT3 times, the 215s, the 222s that you would expect from maybe a slower type machine. But either way, this is still quite a long lap in terms of the hypercar category. In fact, no, it is 202s, 203s. What am I talking about? The best lap is a 202. So literally double the lap time, basically, in terms of it. So we're going to be seeing half the points on offer from last race to this race, which is really interesting as we move forward.
I think track limits is also a huge part of that conversation. You compare how guys approach cutting the track here compared to Oran Park, it's night and day. This is a grade 1 circuit. You've got seas of concrete runoff set to be safe for Formula 1 in the World Endurance Championship. You don't have that high-speed grass that seemingly makes the car faster when you go off the track at those old school challenging British circuits. So it's inspiring, especially at the top of the hill here, where you're seeing guys maybe sink 2-3 tires over the inside of the hill at the top of Eau Rouge. You just need, seemingly, to overdrive this car. We're always seeing guys get a little bit over that white line to try and maximize that pace. Suriani here, you can see that both of those left wheels over the curbing, and on top of that, really upsetting the car and challenging the mechanical limits. It's testing the track limits too.
Yeah, and with the amount of downforce these cars produce, you can go from pretty much glued to the track to flipped upside down quicker than a quick thing in Quicksville. So you got to be extremely careful, especially through Eau Rouge Radion. You go down into the compression, the car is at its maximum load, and then you go up to the top of the hill, and all of a sudden it's at its minimum load. So within a couple seconds, you've had the car having all sorts of emotions happen to it. And yes, cars have emotions. I just said that. But either way, it's going to be quite the challenge, this track, and it's one of the more fun ones, of course. This is a track that everybody, I think, has a bit of experience on, whether it's on this sim, whether it's on another one. Let us know how much you like this. Again, Spa, probably one of my favorite tracks, definitely top 3, I would say. Silverstone, Kyalami being up there as well. But this is just one of those racing circuits. And why do I say that? Every racetrack is a racetrack. No, yes, but you can't overtake on every single corner. This is one of those few tracks that there is an opportunity. If you can make it work, even through the Fangness, you can make an overtake happen, even through campus. It's just you have to be calculated, you have to be precise, and you have to be on the ball, which is why this is a track that really rewards the people that put the effort in.
Starting to see a little bit of blood in the water here for Casper Gassion, the third car in this pack. He's clearly overdriving right now, trying to stay in touch with these two up in front. You've seen him go off a handful of times now and go really, really deep on the brakes. I think he knows he doesn't have the outright pace that some of these other guys have. He definitely has the confidence on the brakes right now because he's continuing to put the pressure on Suriani. You look at this 3-pack right now, though, Mike, this is easily the guy with the highest level of aggression. I don't think we're going to see anything out of Eau Rouge just yet. But if there's a mistake we see here from Suriani or Lopez out in front, Gassior going to pounce immediately. I'll tell you what, it's a good exit, though, for Gassior. We might see a move this time. Suriani defending down low. Gassior with the good speed here as we head into La Source, and it'll be a done deal in P6 for Casper, the pole, working his way up into P6.
That one baffles me a little bit, and I feel that Suriani kind of let that happen, and the reason I say that is he didn't even bother giving an attempt to get in the slipstream of Lopez. There was a great exit. Suriani had an incredible exit through Eau Rouge Radion. There was nothing wrong with the line that he took. It was just he didn't have a helping hand. The slipstream for Geiser was just that much stronger. He managed to punch a hole in the air for his opponent and, well, got overtaken as a result. Honestly, I'm very surprised at that one because I think Suriani could have defended that for a bit longer. I think that must have been a strategic call and just not risking getting an invalid lap. You make contact, all of a sudden you're losing out on points. Let your rival go through, worry about them a little bit later, and then maybe, just maybe, you can have 5 extra points at the end of this race, maybe an extra 10. You never know when it comes down to it. Of course, that 1.5 multiplier at the end of the championship for taking part in all 5 races, you're going to want every point that you can get.
And Peter Yakush has perfect attendance so far. The Hungarian a P7 to get us started in the F4 machinery. P5 in the M2s. He's had a little bit of growing pains so far, jumping over to the GTP cars, but he's trying to move his way forward here with a move on Kareem. Looks to the outside here as we head through Blanchimont. He's got to go the long way around. Sparks flying from the under tray, door to door. This is big time commitment, and Yakush gets around, but that's a big time moment for Harris Kareem, who backs it up and goes back first into the wall. A major moment there for the P11 driver.
Yeah, the damage looks somewhat limited, but either way, that's going to be a trip down pit lane, and you know for a fact that suspension column or steering column, suspension rack, whatever, something has been shot out of line. And unfortunately, we have... that's just going to be a really... you hate to see it. Gasser, by the way, has gotten by Lopez in all of this mix here. Oros has smiled off into the distance as well, as he's going to be grinning like a Cheshire cat right now with nobody to worry about for the foreseeable future. Now, seeing that incident is very unfortunate. We do have a question, though, in chat here that I want to bring up. What is the current average lap time? And while I don't have an exact number on that, I can give you a good estimate. Fastest lap right now from our leaders, 202.2. That's 202.22. A lot of twos involved. Lots of 202s for our top 5. Getting into the 203s once we get from 5th down to about 7th. 7th onward, we're seeing the 204. So on average, I would say somewhere around the 204 to 203 is going to be your average lap time in this session. Now, 202 being the alien pace, anything slower than that needing a little bit of work. Now, as we continue, the lap times will get better. This is the thing, right? Is a lot of these drivers haven't really driven that much on this sim, and so this being a practice session in itself, Jackson.
Again, a lot of guys kind of learning on the fly here to learn this car. Not necessarily learn this track, because we see Spa-Francorchamps in so many sims and racing titles at this point, but these are still relatively new cars to a lot of drivers. It's a new title to a lot of cars, just having its full release after coming out of early access. So a lot of guys having these growing pains. Stephen Bain being one of those drivers. He's trying to move forward right now with another guy who was really hoping to not be this deep in the field, Robert Stalskanis. But these two know that there's plenty of championship points still on the line. They're relatively reserved right now, but Stephen Bain, you can see that wide arc into the chicane. He was trying to launch a late apex onto the main straightaway and get a really, really good run. Will not be able to do so. Coming back out of La Source, Manny Lopez trying to make that move stick on Peter Gassior. And you can see a little bit of a wiggle. The minute you see a car step out, that is setting yourself up to be overtaken at the Camel Straight, and Manny knows that. He goes middle of the track, mimicking Gassior, who's defending, but he thinks smarter of it. He knows there's still 23.5 minutes on the clock, and he knows that he probably can't move too much further forward outside of around 3. Here's a driver we have not talked about nearly enough. Sandor Sasbo immediately swinging from out of the gate, P3, and he might not be done yet. Senatori just a little bit further up the road, a second and change.
Is it Shabo? I'm just kind of... Either way, it's apologies on the mispronunciation on that one.
Yes.
That one I'm not sure on that one. That one's really baffled me. But Sander on the go right now, and lap time's really looking good for him as well. Just taking a look over to it here, his previous lap on the time around, it was a 202.8. That's nearly on the pace of Senatori. It's actually... Wait, hold on. He needs to pick it up. That was actually a fairly slow lap. Oh, I'm looking at the fastest laps. Oh, goodness. Oh, man. Oh, man, that's messed everything up.
You're doing great.
Right,
You're doing great.
Never mind. There is no... Okay, anyways. Miato is still leading.
Nobody home, and at just 25 minutes in, 5.5 seconds is in eternity. Clearly something dialed in there for the Italian. Not a home track for him, but a home-built car, and did not have the start we were necessarily expecting. P6 on debut. That was followed by victory in the M2CS. He's clearly fast in the tin tops. You can see, oh my goodness, that is a great indication of pace out of the top of through Radion. The ability to ramp over the chicane. You're making no grip because you're literally board sliding the car. Watch Suriani here as he works over the top of the hill, bumping and undulating over that curbing on the inside. He's off throttle. There is no fear of losing control right now for Miato. He is mashing it over the top and is able to anticipate, predict what is happening with that car if things go south.
Yeah, and when you get to the top of the hill as well, the steering wheel, it feels as loose as it looks. You are basically flying quite literally through there, and despite all of the downforce these cars produce, that is just the limit that they get onto here. Seemingly, though, I do want to take a moment here just to give a little bit of a shout out here as well, because of course we have a brief little moment without a battle. I suspect, though, with Lopez and Suriani, that's going to change very, very quickly. But we can see all of these lovely camera angles here and all of the different perspectives that we get, the track pans and all that. That's all, of course, provided by our lovely producer, Tom Bryant, over at AK Esports UK. Highly recommend checking them out. Again, links, I think, down in the description if you guys are interested. Go and check them out. Of course, PXN, the official PXN website, down in the description as well. It's e-pxn.com. You can check out all of the sim racing gear available on there, the new V10 bundles, as well as plenty of other equipment down to handbrakes, pedals, everything you could ever need over on PXN's website. And of course, a big thank you to Simracing.GP for allowing us to host it on their platform as well.
Kind of one of the main reasons we're able to do this championship is because they're able to host this plethora of different sim games. So Love the flexibility and allowing it to do this. A lot of the guys at PXN and SGP have been wanting to do a pentathlon like this for a couple of months now, and it's been very, very cool to see this kind of come to fruition and test the adaptability of this of these drivers. And Manny Lopez right now is really trying to test Suriani. He's been in the mirrors of that 6th place car for a couple laps on end now, and he is not cracked at all, Mike.
No, and I don't expect it to go either. We're getting down, though. We're past the halfway point. So it is going to be the time that the gloves are maybe not going to come off just yet, but they're going to get a little tighter, I think, at this point. And so a couple punches to the face here and then might be required, but we'll see. Manuel Lopez, though, has done a great job so far of keeping it firmly between the mayo and the mustard. In fact, where did he start in terms of this race? I'm curious in terms of positions gained, because I think he has made up some ground since we begun. So is Sky Stakans. Lopez as well. There we go. We can see the positions gained there on the left. Lopez is actually down 1 position, interestingly enough. Suriani is the one that is one of our biggest gainers, up 4 positions. It's 3. 4 positions gained, though, for Ben Beams down in 13th. He is our biggest gainer thus far. 7 down, though, for Kareem. That's going to be a difficult pill to swallow at this point. Kareem also, Ely, where he was at the start, 14th. Do they have anyone around them at this stage? Let's take a look at the timings here. Not quite. They're in a bit of no man's land. 4.5 seconds ahead for Ely. So it's going to be a bit of a cruise home, I think, at this point. He is gaining, but the question is, can he gain in the next 18? Well, yeah, probably.
We should mention also what kind of went into the thought process here of why the Ferrari, why this car at this track. Well, for starters, it won here earlier this year at the 6 hours, but you look at the resume that this car has put on since its debut at Sebring in 2023, and it has been beyond impressive. 20 races started, and almost half of them have ended in victory at 7 wins. Only 1 race in its World Endurance Championship tenure where it hasn't ended up on the podium throughout its 20 races. 5 fastest laps and 7 pole positions in an era where we thought Porsche was going to run away with it, where Caddy was able to carry over their DPI expertise and bring the American Thunder. Ferrari has come back to this, brought a lot of their Formula One folks, a lot of ex-Formula One staff, Formula One caliber drivers. You look at Robert Kubica, Robert Schwartzman, James Collado, Antonio Giovinazzi. It's been an all-star cast throughout here at Maranello to kind of propel this car to victory in real life, and it has paid off massively.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, speaking of Ferrari and other brands in these championships as well, you mentioned Cadillac there briefly, and the only reason I want to bring this up is, well, for obvious reasons, in that, well, Cadillac coming to the grid next year in 2026, Sergio Perez, Valtteri Bottas, chat. What do we think on that one? Yes, this has nothing to do with the current race that we're watching, but I think everybody is just as excited as I am for that.
As an American,
and Colton Herta.
I was going to say most excited for Colton Herta. Was a chaotic day in the IndyCar side of things. You know, you look at Will Power leaving Team Penske, Herta announcing to make that move. It's been all but confirmed. Herta's clearly said, I'm going to race in F2. We don't know where and what. As we watch Manny Lopez, a little bit of a mistake further up the road for Suriani. You can see the dust being kicked up from that red machine just a little bit further up. But it's been a chaotic handful of couple days. Very rarely do we see the silly season for IndyCar get this crazy at the start of the year. But I mean, it's been multi-sport implications with where we could potentially see Colton Herta in a few years and where we could see Cadillac as a team in the next few years.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see what is going to happen in 2026 and so on. Here's a little update, by the way. So taking a look at the virtual energy that we have gone, how far in this race have we gone? Half this race would be, we're 2/3 into this race. We're good. On virtual energy, we're chilling. Yeah, everybody should have enough virtual energy to make it to the end. Maybe Sky Stakans needs to go and turn their mode over to use more fuel right now. So again, looking at these timings, or looking at the virtual energy, Again, it's a tough one to explain, isn't it? But it is essentially, as I said before, a secondary fuel tank. So it's a fuel tank in addition to the fuel tank that they have. And I know that is confusing. Yes, trust me, I'm aware. But they can switch the percentages that they use. So I can use more fuel, or I can use more energy. So right now, Sky Stakans is probably going to be switching his mode over to using more fuel. That's not going to affect his pace at all, but it is going to affect the amount of fuel consumption, the amount of energy consumption that they have throughout this.
Yeah, I think also it's important to tell you, it's not just an energy sensor on the hybrid system itself. This thing has got a torque sensor on it, so it's literally detecting how much power it's making through the drivetrain. That is awesome, not just for these GTP cars. I always want to say GTP cars, Mike, because I'm insipilled, and I don't know. It's hypercars, it's LMDH, I suppose. We call it hypercar because it really is a blending of the hypercar and LMDH regulations. Both are kind of cross-compatible between the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship and the World Endurance Championship. Basically, what I'm getting at is torque sensors. It's also measuring the power that the internal combustion engine is making. And we don't just see that in these prototypes. We also see that in the GT3 cars. And that's a great way to immediately do balance of performance instead of doing guessing games and trying to figure out how much horsepower they're making, what the power to weight is. It gives you a pretty crystal clear answer, both in the GTPs and in the GT3s.
Yeah, exactly. And as earlier, as you mentioned it, I had to hesitate when I said GTP because yes, GT3, GTD, GTP, who knows? In fact, I think I said GTP when I meant to say GTD earlier. Anyways, that goes to show you, yeah, 3-letter acronyms, folks. Can we stop with those? Either way. Through this race, 13 and a half minutes left to go. I think it's going to be a cruise to the line at this point for Miato. And this isn't going to be the first time that they've taken the checkered flag. In fact, this is going to be the second round in a row that Andrea Miato has found the checkered flag first. He did it last week in the PXN Pentathlon over at Oran Park in the M2s. And it doesn't matter if it's got downforce or not, it seems. Andrea Miato is one to keep an eye on.
It's an equal level of challenging just how difficult Oran Park is as a track. And again, the M2CS is a car that inspires confidence. It's there to pick you up, but it wants you to beat on it hard to really, really push it to the limit. And these cars are a lot more challenging at the line. But again, there's so much more comfort in this track. You've got seas of runoff. You've got a long, long way to go. If you make a mistake, there's plenty of time, plenty of space on track to recover. So it's a different kind of challenge. Over to Adam Ely here in 14th. He's trying to close that gap. He's just into the drafting range, it looks like, for Ben Beams in front, but he's trying to pick up the scraps here from P14.
Yeah, and judging by his pace, I suspect that Ben Beams isn't going to fight this too hard. We'll see. Obviously, it's been a while since either one of these two have had a battle, so they might give it a little bit. But again, this is all about the points on offer, and the points are on offer for clean laps. It's not about positions gained. So there's really no benefit for Adam Ely to overtake, and there's really no reason for Ben Beams to defend. So I think at the end of the day, Beams is going to allow Ely through, and they're just going to kind of work together as they plug away for the rest of this race. Now, obviously, actions are going to speak louder than words, and we'll see what the actions do speak probably on the next lap as it's getting to that point. On their way down Eau Rouge Radion, which, by the way, do you happen to know how Eau Rouge and Radion, well, Eau Rouge in particular, got its name, Jackson?
Off rip, I'm trying to remember. It is the red colored stream at the bottom of the corner, at the corner entry.
Well, close. So yes and no. Okay. So it is the red, it is Spa, or excuse me, Eau Rouge is red water. Minor is what it directly transfers to, and that's because the entire stream has a very rich outlet of iron in it. So it's very rich in iron oxide deposits, which turns the water red. So it's actually the entirety of the river, creek, whatever, it's more of a creek, to be honest, that turns red, not just down at the bottom. So that's where it gets its name from. And here we go. Finally, I think this is going to be the position gained. Ely is on the outside. Do we see Beams break early? No, we see him break too late, in fact. The results are the same, though. No, they're not. Ely going to have to make it work now.
Drag race up the line. This cannot stay side by side up Eau Rouge. Mark Webber levels of commitment. This is not. And Ely gonna back out of it. Well, no, actually, because Ben Beams is actually further behind. Excuse me. We might not be out of this mix as suddenly Ely has to defend way down low. Here comes Beams on the high side in the run into Lacombs. We'll have to go the long way around. And Ben with a big spin. Ely's got to stomp on the anchors there to minimize the drama. And will get away unscathed, but a big moment there for Ben Beams.
Yeah, that's one less point that he's going to be receiving. I stand by my opinion. I guess what I'm getting at there. That was a senseless fight. There was really no need for that. It was entertaining. I enjoyed it. But, you know, I didn't enjoy seeing Ben Beam spin around in Lacombe all on his own there. Not quite what anyone wanted, and especially Ben. Either way, he's going to keep on keeping on right now, and we're going to look up ahead to Manuel Lopez, who's missed his braking zone by a country mile, slams into the back of the car ahead of him, and that's going to be Suriani. Lopez now 2 seconds to the background. Well, all that hard work has been undone.
He's going to be very lucky there that Suriani was able to relatively get away unscathed. As a result, a lot less drama at the point. Andrea Miato trying to make it 2 wins in a row, and that gap is narrowing big time. 1.4 seconds about lost. If you remember just a couple minutes ago, that was well over 3 seconds. Has he been driving that Ferrari a little bit too hard? Has that gap closed because maybe he's pushed the tires a smidge too much? Those Michelins begging for mercy, and has Senatore maybe saved a little bit of something for the end here?
I think there was probably a mistake from Miato, just to be honest. I think he maybe messed up slightly. We'll see with the lap times at the end of this one. His previous lap was no, that's right, we don't have previous laps. All right, never mind. His best lap is a 202.2. I can't tell you much more than that, unfortunately. Miato, though, I don't think this is going to affect him too much. I really think it was probably a little spin or slide or loss of grip. Are the tires getting down there? Yeah, I think at this point, it's not arguable. The tires are probably getting a little worse for wear, but the same could be said on Senatore's car. They've been out for the same amount of time. They've been taking the same corners at relatively similar speeds, so does Senatore have maybe a little bit more grip left? Maybe. Is it going to be enough to gain 2 seconds in 8 minutes, though? Well, only one way to find out.
That gap's still narrowing, by the way, as we hit just over 2 seconds coming to the line. And Vicento Senatore is starting to turn the wick up there in that yellow and red 83. He's been waiting to put himself into contention for the past 45 minutes. And this is where the wick goes all the way up, where he needs to go maximum attack if he has any hope of closing it to Miato. You can see how much of a chunk he's taken out of the inside of turn 4. And with a long run, this is the excruciating part of this, Mike, because you're still not within drafting distance. You're watching Miato sail off into the open blue, and you're just praying that in the twisty sections you have something a little bit more figured out. You can find a little bit more grip and use that to close the gap.
Looking at the way these two are driving, I actually think that Miato has backed off a little bit. Looking at the braking zones, Senatore is braking just slightly later than Miato, and is he gaining more time? No, not really. We saw the gap when we headed into Lacombe was 2.3. The gap out of Lacombe was 2.3. It went down a little bit in the corner itself, but that's sort of the slow in, fast out mentality that Miato is taking, and the fast in, slow out mentality that Senatore is trying to make work, but not finding any success. Behind that, by the way, Sabo is kind of disappeared. He's 5.5 seconds to the back. He's not going to be worried about too many people. He'll be finishing, I think, in third.
Sabos, Oros, and Gassior are a little bit on an island further back, but you look over to Robert Stalskanis. He's got Yakush right up the back of him, as we'll pick up that battle with Peter Yakush, the P9 driver, working down through Pujon. This is very rare to see a move at this point in the track, but Yakush tried it. I don't think it was intentional, though, Mike. You could see a big lockup there from the P9 driver, and that is not the move he was looking for, not the time he was looking for. Boulder rolls a little bit further back down the hill for him.
Yeah, a little bit of a bridge too far on that one, I think, and with time running out, time is going to be absolutely of the essence if you are Yakush. Same with Senatore here. The gap is down. It's down by half a second. So we're down but not out, is what I would say right now. Miato still, I think, is within his limits. That's Prithvi again. Oh no. This is just not Prithvi's simulator, unfortunately, it seems, as he's had so much success in Assetto Corsa, so much success in iRacing. Maybe, just maybe, he needs a little more practice in Le Mans Ultimate.
Another half a second gone between Miato and Senatore, and that is going a little bit closer. Oh, big wiggle there on exit for Peter Yakush, and he is clearly overdriving that car, trying to close that gap. This guy's calling this up in front. It'll be a frustrating P8 finish for Robert, who's had such a strong opening to the first 2 rounds, but will have to pick up the scraps and try and salvage, at best, a P8 finish. Not if Peter Yakush has anything to say about it. Yes, he's struggling in the tight and technical sections, but he's got 2 long straightaways where he can stay nip and tuck and close that gap immediately. Speaking of gaps, Senatore down to 1.2 seconds between your leader and Miato.
Yeah, and looking at the sector times here, it's through Sector 1 that Miato is so much slower than Senatore. As we get into Sector 3, it seems like Senatore is able to kind of fall back more even with Miato down to Sector 2. I have no idea because it won't tell me. But either way, Senatore here, yeah, closing that gap down to 1 second now. We're going to be within slipstream range very, very shortly. And I think Miato, at this point, is going to be sweating like a cow in a burger joint.
LMU's graphics are not just beautiful, they give us a great tool here for you guys at home and for us in the broadcast booth. Watch when sparks start to fly from the floor of these Ferraris. That's telling us when the cars are bottomed out and when they're a little bit too low to the ground. We just saw it there from the front left of one of the aerodynamic elements, the splitter of Senatore. 3/10 the gap now between your first and second place drivers. We've seen a little bit of a struggle here from Miato at the top. He stays solid, but Senatore is right there in drafting range. At 3.5 minutes to go, will we see a new leader for the first time tonight? Senatore peeking to the outside as we head into Lacombe's. Miato backs out, and for the first time with 3 minutes to go in round 3, we've got a new leader.
That was an uncontested pass as well from Miato. Now, does Miato think that he can do the same thing to Senatore? That's the only reason I suspect. He tried to defend the inside as hard as he could, but the overspeed was just way too much for Senatore. Now, with 2 laps left to go, the virtual energy, look at that for Senatore. Very low compared to Miato, so he's going to be able to get lighter on fuel, so Miato should, in theory, be quicker in a straight line. Now, theory versus practice is all just a guessing game right now, and we can only tell you what's happening on our screens. What I can tell you, though, is I think Miato wants a repeat of last lap, but he wants to do it himself.
But again, you got to remember, Mike, this is the first time tonight Vincenzo Senatore has clean air for his nose. Yes, he's going to have Miato closing that gap behind on the straightaways, but we've seen him be confident in these tight and technical sections on this racetrack. And that's what he's been able to do so far, to put a half-second gap between him and Miato. We'll see how close that gap closes. Back over to Peter Yakush, P8 now, as he tries to continue to close on Robert Stelskanis. Those positions both have dropped back. There's been a moment. There was almost a moment again as Yakush, for the second time, tries to get that move into turn 12, but is unable to make it stick. Robert absolutely feeling the pressure, though.
Yeah, he's giving it his all right now and trying just to hang on. The white flag's out at this stage, so we're down to the wire, folks. Senatore has begun the final lap. What can Miato do right now? As they go down Eau Rouge Radion, Miato is gone. Clearly, Jackson, you must have been right when it comes to the tire wear here. There's a huge difference, and we know that Senatore has used more virtual energy and less fuel. I don't see how Senatore has the advantage in this one, but either way, it clearly is in the favor of him.
The prime opportunity for him to take that spot back would have been right here into turn 5, using that straight line, and you combine the clean air of Senatore. You look at where Miato's out at this point. Older, more worn tires, and dirty air for the first time tonight. He has less aerodynamic grip after leading for so long. We've got trouble more. No, Robert Skalskalinis has had to come in and take fresh fuel after he's ran out, and he'll drop back even further. Heartbreak for the man from Latvia. Senatore trying to defend. It'll be one more overtaking opportunity here as we work our way back onto Blanchimont. And Miato has kept him honest within about 2 car lengths. He'll have draftability, Mike, as they work their way out of turn 14 and into 15 for the final time.
Yeah, it looks like it's pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered at this state. Vincenzo Senatore has one more corner complex to hold on. Miato is an entire half second in the background. Down towards the bus stop, folks. This is your last opportunity. Miato, get your cheers out in chat for him. Can he do it? No, it doesn't look like he can. He gets nice and tight in the braking zone, but Vincenzo Senatore rounds the final corner now, and for the PXN Pentathlon on SGP, he takes the victory for round 3. An incredible drive from Senatore, capitalizing in the dying moments of this race.
To quote a Mikeism here, nothing to shake a stick at for Miato. A phenomenal drive. Think just took a little bit too much at the end there and paid the ultimate price. Sabo coming home in P3, Oros in 4th, Gassior in 5th. Lopez able to fend off from Peter Yakush. He works his way into the bus stop for the final time. No pressure behind for Bain. A great drive here for P7 as we all begin to tiptoe home in round 3. Some great driving here for the GTPs.
Yeah, it really was. This is a good week, I have to say. Le Mans Ultimate, of course, a lot of question marks coming into this one. We had the Assetto Corsa race. That went very well. Then the, of course, iRacing race, which went swimmingly. And to be honest, I think a lot of people were scratching their heads on LMU. This is the newest simulator in the lineup, of course, so the experience not quite there for everybody. But we now, everyone that has taken part, has a little more experience, has the muster to take it through. LMU, folks, is a brilliant game. It looks beautiful, doesn't it?
Still pretty. Showrunner Adam Ely working his way through Blanchimont for the final time.
A hard-fought race for him. 12th position is what it's going to be for Adam, the league admin, by the way. So big shout out to everybody behind the scenes that makes these events possible. Of course, Adam Ely being one of those fine folks. Of course, big thank you to as well, our production, Tom Bryant, and of course, AK Esports UK for putting on the show. All of these lovely camera shots that you're seeing, all provided by them as well. But here we go, Jackson. I think it's time to break down the results here for the final time of tonight as we get ready to head on over to ACC for next week. And we go over to Brands Hatch in the GT3s.
Vincenzo Senatore, your race leader in a Hollywood pass at the end, alongside Andrea Miato, who we thought for so long was going to run away with this at the very end, was dominant from the start, had a 4-second gap, and somehow, some way, Vincenzo Senatore able to walk away with your race lead. Sandor Sabo joining them on the podium.
And Mark Oros down for 4th position, and that's pretty much, I think, where he started as well. There are your standings on your screen right now, provided by Le Mans Ultimate, of course. Sabo, you said down in 3rd, the bottom step of the podium, and the final home for the gear that is going to be, of course, given away. The top 3 taking home prizes for this race, and of course, each week having prizes, and then there's also the overall prizes as well. So the VD4 bundle this time around is going to be heading on over to Vincenzo Senatore, the CB1 over to Andrea Miato, and the HBS over to Sabo. Mark Oros just missing out, unfortunately, but we'll see from him next week. I'm sure he's got more in the tank right now. Every single time we see him on track, he's getting better. Geisert down in 5th. We also, again, another driver to keep an eye on, Emmanuel Lopez. Bit of a hard race, I'd say, for him. He's put in great results up to this point. 6th, I think, being his worst result so far. So as you Mikeism, nothing to shake a stick at, to be honest. Peter Yakush down in 7th, Steve Bain in 8th. Sai Prithvi managing a 9th position despite the hard-fought efforts here tonight, and then Christian Petrov rounding out your top 10.
Great debut night here for Sandor as he gets his first podium on debut. Rounding out your field here, Adam Ely, Andrew Suriane, Benji Beams. Robert Styskulness is going to be absolutely kicking himself over what could have been, and that is an added penalty that sent him even further back here into P14. Harris Kareem and Christian Lorilla with damage did continue. Cannot say the same, though, for David Christie and Pedro Delgado, rounding out your 18 car deep field.
No David Christie today. That's a shame. Would love to see him back out on track, of course. But what a race. What a championship that we have, and what a pentathlon, as I will pronounce that one properly. Pentathlon,
there you go.
not pentathlon. I need to still draw that one out. Not quite sinking in yet. But my goodness, what an event that we have here. And again, as we get ready to head on over to ACC next week, I know for a fact, I know that's my bread and butter. I think, Jackson, that's your bread and butter.
Oh,
Unfortunately, sure. I'm not going to be around for that one. It's going to be yourself and Paul Jeffrey in the booth for that. I'm ashamed that I have to miss that one. Brands Hatch is one of my favorite tracks.
I love it. It's such a... It's classic British track, right? Plenty of grass if you make a mistake. A lot of runoff. Very, very bumpy. So much elevation change. You've got to time your passes and moves absolutely perfectly if you want to get things done. It's very similar to Spa. Requires big time commitment, big time courage if you want to move forward. And you combine that with the GT3 machinery, the only round where guys are going to have open selection for their cars and we're not entirely spec. It's going to be a good show.
Yeah, GT3s on Brands Hatch. It's a tight track. It's very small. The GT3s don't fit that well on it, so we're going to see some contact, folks. I can't wait. You definitely want to tune in next week. And of course, again, one more time, a massive thank you to all of our organizers that make these events possible. A massive thank you to PXN for providing everything, of course, for the prizes, as well as the championship as a whole, and SGP, Simracing.GP, for putting on this championship. And of course, AK Esports UK for the production. But I think, Jackson, I think it's time to wrap this one up here for tonight. Is there anything you'd like to say before we close this one out?
Huge thanks to the folks at PXN, Simracing.GP, and AK UK for obviously letting us do this. We hope you guys at home had as much fun as Mike and I did here in the booth. And again, show's not over. We've got 2 more weeks and 2 more action-packed races coming your way. Stay tuned. Phone a friend. Gonna be a good show.
It's all kudos in the future here, folks. Don't miss it. We got one in next week and then one the week after that. But in the meantime, I hope absolutely everybody has a lovely evening, afternoon, or morning, wherever you are in this fine world. Thank you, and good night.